What are the differences between some of the frameworks, and how would you go about bucketing them?
They've sought alignment between the different standard and framework setting groups, so that the expectation is that you would be able to rather seamlessly be able to apply multiple frameworks within one disclosure, and a lot of companies do that. They apply multiple frameworks to make sure that their stakeholders get the necessary information that they need, and it's packaged in a way that's comparable across industries and across various groups using that same framework.
We've been looking at SASB reporting standards, IRRC, and as well the GRI reporting standards, which the first two actually are a bit similar in a way, since they target the same or mostly the same audience, namely investors or providers of financial capital and regulators. So both SASB reporting standards and IRC, they define those sustainability topics or those ESG topics which are relevant specifically for investors. So which are material in terms of risks or opportunities for the business, for the financial condition of the business, for the value creation on short term and long term. And these are actually the topics, the ESG topics those frameworks report about. And in comparison with the GRI standards, which cover ESG topics more broadly, since their target audience is more broad. In that way, the GRI reporting standards identify ESG topics which are relevant in terms of impact for the external environment, and not only for internal use in terms of for the business itself.
Do you see new frameworks consistently being added, or are there any that are gaining more traction consistently globally?
The one that's gaining traction is definitely TCFD, as there are more policymakers are making mandates for public traded companies to need to use TCFD framework to disclose their climate-related management approaches, risks, and opportunity, as well as how they are doing right now with their greenhouse gas emissions.
Big stakeholders are requesting TCFD disclosure because they understand that climate is a pressing issue, and there's not a lot of information out there on how companies are building resilience into their organizations in order to address a changing climate in the future. Another one is SASB, or that Sustainability Accounting Standards Board disclosure. We're seeing a lot more requests from large stakeholders to companies to disclose on their material topics.
It doesn't really create actually extra value to come up with another new standard, since we already have some well-known, internationally well-known and universally adopted standards. And we see today that there's momentum for them to come together and combine forces. So some of the largest internationally known frameworks and standards have come up with a joint statement of intent to work together and to at least try to combine some of the main aspects in each of the standards. But previously, we've also seen, for example, GRI and SASB already coming up with some guidance on how to combine both standards, because I think it's important to notice that these standards are not substitutes, but rather can be used and are in practice also used complementary.
So it's about finding the strengths in each of the mechanisms or frameworks, and then taking the best of what's them, and then having them be integrated. Also, I think you talk about the company perspective. It's good for people, the audience, be it investors or the larger audience stakeholders, that they have standards that they recognize and know and trust, rather than have like 50 different ones where nobody really knows which one is it's the one that I want to link to, that the one I find most credible or respectable. What advice would you give to companies that are just getting started? Why is it important, and what are the biggest barriers to getting started?
The company will want to set strategies to implement their sustainability framework and strategies, which requires a lot of internal buy-ins, stakeholder coordination, and data resources. And so how to pull into sufficient resources to achieve and implement those strategies is also another barriers that I have seen in the industry.
A need to focus on what's material to the business. And what we've seen, whether it's a company starting out or a company that has a developed program, is if they don't have a well-defined understanding of what is material to their stakeholders, what's material to their business risks and opportunities in terms of ESG, they may be engaging in disclosure and undertaking initiatives which don't provide the necessary value to the business as well as to their stakeholders that they think they're providing. So we always really stress that they need to undertake a materiality assessment, and there's a full range of different ways to approach that. But even if they're going to just do something very streamlined, that is your best bet. Figure out what you need to focus on before you undertake the large endeavor of designing a sustainability strategy and disclosing on those efforts.
I think it's evident that reporting on ESG topics and providing climate-related information is becoming more and more important for all kinds of companies. Not only are investors increasing pressure, there's also more and more regulation. The scope of the regulation is broadening. The sooner you get started, the better, I would say. It helps them to identify material risks and opportunities as well. And of course, having a report, being it an integrated report or a sustainability report, is of course also an interesting means of communication, both internally and externally. So I think it offers many advantages. However, we must be honest, setting up such a report, following a standard, requires time and money, of course. So resources to be invested. That's why we at Antea Group also try to help and guide our clients to navigate the maze of reporting standards, frameworks, understanding regulation and requirements of society, and help them not only navigate the maze but also implement these solutions.